Hello, and welcome to another random adventure in Azeroth. I'm your host, Steve of StewTV. Thank you for joining me today. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Steve, why are you re-uploading a similar video to the last one? Have you finally gone completely mental? Where was I? Oh, right, the video. So yeah, I keep getting asked to give more specifics about this challenge. Things like, what talents did I use? What legendaries did I have equipped? And, obviously, item level is most important. So I wanted to kind of go a little bit further in that and hopefully put some helpful hints and things that'll instantly kill you, things that you should avoid, don't use this certain time, stuff like that. And hopefully something actually coherent comes from all this. So here's hoping. Alright, so let's get some basics out of the way. First, talents. I found the atypical demon build to be the best for phase 1 with a small change from momentum to fell eruption. This is for a few reasons. Reason number 1, you will need fell eruption during the fight to interrupt Xylem. Reason number 2, Nemesis is a bad idea due to Xylem being considered a PvP target and therefore only giving a 15-second duration. Reason number 3, you will need fell rush during Xylem's casting of mirror images to get to him as soon as possible. So momentum is kind of out. The two legendaries I used during the whole fight were Moarg and Anger of the Half-Giants. Although, honestly, neither of these are mandatory. Moarg will help a lot in Phase 2, and Anger just makes everything a little bit easier. I would say any legendary at this point could be helpful so long as you are comfortable with it. And of course, lastly, my item level when I got this was 906, although I have seen plenty of people do this with much less. So to begin the fight, you're going to want to make sure you flask, get a crit food buff, and an augment room. I found all of these items to be helpful to speedily get to phase 2, although you could get there without. For phase 1, I would suggest pre-potting, but don't use a second potion during the fight. This will put combat potions on cooldown until you get out of combat, which will be somewhere in the middle of phase 2. Phase 2, you will need everything to win. You may have noticed I did not open the fight against Xylem with meta. This is actually on purpose. Xylem starts the fight in Frost phase, which for Demon Hunters is actually the easy phase. He casts Frost Bolts and puts a ring of ice around you. It's important to stay in demon form here as much as possible, which I found a little trick which helped me. Attack him a few times and interrupt him. During the Frost phase, he will move when interrupted, so use this to your advantage. Reposition him in the middle as best as you can. Now, ironically, I didn't do it this time, but you will see kind of how bad of a spot it puts me in when I don't do my little trick. You see those shards of ice which will kill you in one hit? They can be stunned, so use Chaos Nova on them. Due to power overwhelming, you will have a decent chance to get a soul shard from that stun. Because of Feast of Souls, you will take 5 seconds off of your I-Beam and Chaos Nova again, so it kind of self-perpetuates itself. If you reposition Xylem just right from interrupting him, you can actually get him to set in such a spot where you can actually hit the ice shards as well on your I-Beam, which I neglect to do once again. But in that way, you can actually get some extra soul shards that just kind of sit around whenever you need them. Alright, it's time for the transition to Arcane. It's at this point he will blink much further away and become untargetable. Find his glimmer, land directly on top of him. If you are not right on top of him, he will continue to slow you down and kill you. This first time should be quite easy, as you have 2 fell rushes banked, and you should be in the middle of the room if you've been following my instructions. It will not always be this easy, keep in mind. For the remainder of this phase, he will cast Arcane Barrages, and what I believe is a Shadow Channel Barrage. So any one of these bolts, if you get hit, will hit you for about 80% of your total HP, so you should avoid it at all costs. Damage is kind of secondary in this phase. What you really need to be doing is trying to avoid any excessive damage and trying to delay the transition as much as you possibly can, and being in a good spot for that. So as you can see now, he transitions again, and I'm not able to get to him unless I use meta. So I would suggest for his second to do metamorphosis, just to get you to that final marker there. If you don't, I had the hardest time trying to get past that second glimmering where he would go like that. And as you can see now, he goes back to Frost, and that should be around 50% health where he transitions back to Frost. So similar concept as last time. This is a much more manageable phase, so you're able to interrupt those and move him towards the center. So in this phase, you will once again have the ice rings, so of course make sure you avoid them and stun it. That will give you fuel for your eye beams, which will keep you alive in this phase. He will get off a lot of frost bolts, and because he blinks quite far away. Now in this particular part, you will see some interesting gameplay where I kind of bait him to be in the middle. And this is actually, again, by design. So what I want to do in this case is to get him as close as I possibly can to the middle there. So when I transition, I can see where he's going and I can get to him right away. So it's not, I don't have to have meta on standby anymore because I don't have it. So this is actually pretty useful in later phases when you're kind of almost getting to that very end point. So I will show you here what happens when he gets a full siphon off. Of course, it just had to be my kill video where he actually, I let him get a full cast off. So he gains a stacking buff that makes him so everything he does more damage. And so this is not the way you want to do it, but essentially he is going to have more power, so these bolts are going to do more damage. Any cast he gets, hard cast he gets off is going to hurt more, and just generally bad, just very bad. You want to avoid it as much as you possibly can. So it's around this point you're going to want to start looking futuristically at what you're going to do in phase 2. So keep in mind that anything that you put on cooldown that will affect talents will make it so that you cannot change those talents. So you're going to see here the transition, and I'm going to use my tome to swap talents. Now I'm actually going to try to do Chaos Blades because at the time I wanted to do a all-out damage build, but I couldn't do Chaos Blades because I had my eye beam on cooldown. So right here I'm going to use a prolonged power because it's really hard to tell when he's going to come off of and start attacking you right there. I'm going to pop drums. I'm going to hit meta once again, pop everything I possibly can, and it is an all-out damage. But at the same time, you're going to want to make sure you keep every AoE that you possibly can use for his ads, which are going to come out right around now. So I give myself a decent amount of room because he is not going to move until these ads are dead. So you're going to want to drop your blades, do your eye beam, and keep that bloodlet stack as much as you possibly can there, and then try to keep him here on the edge of the surface. If you let him out any further, he is going to just envelop the entire room here. So you definitely don't want that. But at the same time, you do want to make sure that he does not, that you don't get into that shadow either. If you get in that shadow, it hurts a lot. So do not go in the shadow. I made that mistake a couple times with Fellblade, and that's why predominantly I did not want to use Fellblade for this fight. Because I kept on jumping at him, and then boom, you take more damage than you need to. I have seen people not or do a non-demon build in this one, and they basically just use the soul shards from the ads. If that is what if you feel like you can do it, then by all means try to do it. You do also, if you have demonic appetite, you do get some healing out of that. So I could see maybe that happening, or if you have the legendary for the chest, that could also work too. So definitely on this one, it's very much it's kind of weird because you have to keep the AoE for the ads, but at the same time you want to do as much damage as you possibly can. I think in a couple of these I did do an I-beam on him as well, because I knew that there was a pretty good chance I'd be able to get I-beam back from demonic appetite. So that's a pretty good thing. But that is also, like I said, that is risky. If you do not have I-beam, you will not kill those ads. So you need every single AoE you can possibly get here. And this was the last ad pack. Very, like, I was going crazy here, but got him down, and then at the very end, it's just you gotta put everything you possibly can into killing him. So leaving it all out, because there's no more room for ads. So even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to really get that ad pack down, and it's all over if they get to him. So just everything you can possibly do to get him down, and that's it. Alright, if you made it this far, thanks again for watching. This is a lot of fun for me. Hopefully it is something that you enjoy as well. If you really like this video, go ahead and smash that like button, hit subscribe.